Is it possible to use an updraft over the Harbor ultimate? Can you use corners to dodge the Storm Surge? And what do I see now? An Harbor ultimate inside the ISO ultimate? How's that possible? You'll find it out later this video, because in this video I'll go over a lot of Harbor mechanics. These mechanics are not only good if you want to play Harbor, but also if you play against an Harbor. So whether you're an Harbor main or just a regular player, you'll probably learn something useful in this video. Now sit back, relax, and let's start with the first mechanic. An important fact about the Storm Surge is that if you hit an enemy, they will be nearsighted and not fully flashed. This means two things. The first thing, if you walk close to an enemy, they will be able to see you, so don't do that of course. But the second thing is a little more niche, and that's that if you use a Vandal while an enemy is nearsighted, the enemies will be able to see your bullet tracers from any distance. This is actually a pretty important mechanic, because like you see in this next round, the enemy knew exactly where to shoot even though they were blind.
Alright, that tight.
What? She got me blind. So, how do you fix this? You could consider buying a Phantom over a Vandal, because if you use a Phantom, the enemies won't see any bullet tracers, so your near sight is a little more effective. Next mechanic, let's keep talking about the Storm Surge. Can this ability hit you through walls? And the answer to that is no. But this got me questioning, is it possible to use corners to dodge this ability? And the answer to that is yes, it is possible. So, if you see a Storm Surge landing close to you, consider walking around the corner and you might be able to dodge it. On top of this, because the Storm Surge needs to be in line of sight to hit you, you can even dodge this ability by standing a little higher than it, for example on these stairs. Like you see in the background, I'm definitely in range, but the ability doesn't hit me because the stairs is blocking it. Another cool thing about this ability is that it flies exactly the same way as a Sage Slow. So good news for all the Sage mains, you don't need to relearn all the lineups, because they also work for Harbor. Okay, let's talk about the Harbor wall now. If you use this wall and don't do anything, it will only go up when the orb reaches its final point, and this takes a little bit of time. And sometimes you need the quick wall because you know the enemies are pushing quickly. So how can you do that? Well, my friends, if you use your wall, but immediately press your right mouse button as soon as you cast it, your wall will go up instantly. When you do this, you don't get like the full length of your wall, but it's a very useful mechanic if you know enemies are pushing. Another mechanic you need to know about this wall is this next one. When you cast this ability, you will see an orb moving, right? You can steer it to the left, right, up and down. Well, my friends, the placement of your wall will depend on where the orb is. What do I mean with that? Imagine you want your wall to go into this hut over here. If you cast your orb above this hut, your wall will land on the hut, and that's maybe not what you wanted. So if you want to make sure it goes in the hut, you need to aim your orb under the ceiling. Then you will block it off easy peasy, so keep this in mind when using this ability. Okay, let's talk about the Harbor Smoke now. When you place it down, it stays up for 15 seconds. And I was wondering, what if you place it down, wait for 10 seconds and then activate your shield? Does it extend the time? Or will the shielded version only stays up for 5 more seconds and then disappear? The answer, it does not extend the time, so no cheeky longer smoke sadly. Another thing I was wondering is, what does the shield actually block? And the answer to that is only bullets. Abilities of agents just go through. An example of one of these abilities is the Raise ultimate. As long as you aim at the feet of the enemy, you'll probably get a kill if an enemy stands in the smoke. Did you know that you can activate the smoke shield mid-air? Is this a useful mechanic? Probably not. But if you want a flying shield, it's something cool you can do, I guess. Something that is a useful mechanic, however, is this next one. When I saw the Harbor ultimate, I noticed that it doesn't go all the way in the sky like a Brimstone ultimate or an Astra ulti. So this got me questioning, is it possible to jump over the Harbor ulti? Let's pick Jet, do a test, and at first glance, if you jump from the ground, it is not possible. You don't get enough height. However, if you stand a little higher, for example on the platform, then you will get enough height to jump over the Harbor ulti. So good news, Jet mains, you are actually an hard counter of Harbor. And this isn't the only ability that Jet can dodge with an updraft, because if Harbor throws a Storm Surge on Jet, she can also updraft over that. Pretty OP, my friends. Some other ways to dodge a Harbor ultimate is with the teleport. So if you play an agent like Chamber, Yoru or Omen, you can dodge the ult easy peasy. And about this ultimate, here's another insane mechanic. If the enemy ISO is using his ultimate on you, you can actually quickly cast your ultimate and then your ult will go off inside the ISO ulti. I know, it's very unfair, the enemy ISO will get blinded, and I think this isn't supposed to happen, so maybe Rito Games will fix this bug soon. Bobber break, honestly, I found her like this, no idea how she got under the blanket. Okay, let's go to Bind now for another mechanic. Just like the Viper wall, the wall of Harbor will go through the teleporter and flies further from there. This means that from A side you'll be able to block off Hookah and B main, and if you want to, you could use your smoke in combination with a wall to block off A side from B. A very useful mechanic if you want to help your teammates from the other side of the map. Let's now talk about the Harbor ulti again. There was this mechanic with the old Harbor ultimate that if if you would walk backwards and then cast your ulti, his ultimate would move slower, but if you walked forward and cast his ultimate would move faster and go further. Of course, I had to test out, is this still a thing? And the answer to that is no. The new ultimate just got a fixed speed, and it doesn't go further if you cast it while moving. Now we're gonna talk about interactions with Vito. What does the interceptor break? This one isn't that complicated. The interceptor will break the storm surge, and it breaks the smoke if you reactivate the smoke. So be careful with activating your smoke shield too early, because it might be broken by the interceptor. KO. What happens if you use your harbor wall, but while you are using it, you get suppressed by the KO knife? The answer? You can't rotate your wall anymore, but at the point you get suppressed, it will go into a straight line. It still goes up though, so your wall doesn't completely go to waste. And finally, if you throw your storm surge through the teleporter, the door will open so you can do the teleport tricky.
Stunning vision.
And this is it, my friends. These were a few interesting harbor mechanics that I found. But if you know any cool mechanics, you can submit them in the Lowlander Discord server, and you might be able to win a battle pass in the next tips and tricks sent by you video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new, and I see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.